10 of the brothers decided to sell Joseph into slavery, and he was taken off by some, Bedouins into slavery, and then they ultimately sold him to some folks in Egypt, which was not a place where Jewish people wanted to end up living at that point in time. These men were starting the nation of Israel. There was no nation of Israel. He ended up in Egypt. The story. He ended up being basically, a slave there. He was, placed in the home of Potiphar, who was one of the top-ranking national figures in Egypt, and he ultimately was thrown in prison. He stayed in prison for, I think at least 7 years, if not longer, but, for a crime he did not commit. And, you up to that point, you'd be saying, man, this is awful. Why is God letting this happen? And then he ultimately got out of prison and ended back up in the Pharaoh's household. And the next thing you know, he is, because of his trustworthiness and God's blessing on him, the Egyptians put him in control of, a good bit of the country. And then he is in the right place when his brothers show up, because there's a famine back where they live in Canaan, and they are all starving to death. And if they don't get food from Egypt, they're going to die. And they show up, and guess who it is? It's their long-lost brother, but they don't recognize him. And then you have this incredible moment where they're there begging for food for the life of their people, and Joseph reveals himself to them, and it's a poignant moment in the Bible. But they are terrified because he has the power to have them killed now, which is funny because that's the reason they didn't like him. He had all these dreams about them bowing down to him when he was a kid, and he just innocently told his brothers about him, and they hated him because they thought he was arrogant and and self-righteous. And here are those dreams actually being proven to be prophetic and coming true. And what does Joseph do? He doesn't kill them. He doesn't seek revenge. He says this to them in Genesis 50:20. He says, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done." The saving of many lives.